Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hansen and Pat McClain would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Money Matters. I'm Scott Hansen.
I'm Pat McClain.
Glad you are with us today as we talk about financial matters. Myself and my co-host, we've both been financial advisors for decades and have helped thousands of people navigate their own personal finances and come here on the air to be your financial advisor.
We have tried.
Yeah.
We've tried to help thousands of people. My favorite line ever from a client, he'd been with me for, 25 years. He came in the office and he said to me, Pat, I got to tell you, this is some of the best advice in the last 25 years, some of the best advice that you could ever ask for from a financial planning. He said, unfortunately, I didn't take most of it.
Is that right?
That's what he said. You want a big motorhome.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, a part of being a good financial advisor is helping people do what's best for them.
You're telling them what they need to hear, not necessarily what they want to hear.
I mean, look, like we've all had, to talk about the medical field, we've all had a variety of physicians over the years. Some are really good at communicating. They're all experts.
That's right.
Some are really good at communicating. One I thought I was on candid camera. I swear. The guy was brilliant on his specialty and what I need, but his lack of ability to communicate with me was, I literally thought there must be a hidden camera. No one could be this bad.
So I read a book a number of years ago. We'll finish this subject up. I read a book a number of years ago about empathy in medicine. And they did these studies about how empathetic doctors were and what the outcomes for the patients are. And what they found is that the more a patient found that the doctor was empathetic to their situation, the better the outcome, the medical outcome for the patient, because they felt that the doctor understood what they were going through. And so they
believed that they had an advocate, someone in their corner rooting for them and all that.
That's
and
right.
A friend.
That's right. And so the idea behind it was, can they teach empathy in medical school? And so I read the book thinking that this translates into our industry. And is there some way to teach empathy? And after I finished the book,
there's no way to.
I don't know.
Well, the best advisors are the ones that connect really well with people.
The ones that actually, yes. That have an emotional attachment, but not too close.
Yeah. This last week I had lunch with Dr. John Townsend. He's did you ever read the book Boundaries years ago?
Yes.
Okay, so he's co-author of that, and large clinical psych. Anyways, a friend of a friend said, I think you guys would enjoy getting to know one another. So I had lunch with this guy, and we were talking about like financial planning. He was kind of curious, and I talked about just the importance of really being able to connect with somebody and guide them. And then I said, the longer I've been in this industry, the more convinced I am that a good financial advisor, our value is keeping people from making mistakes from which they cannot recover. And he sat back and he says, I never really thought about it that way. That makes absolute sense, because you see people in their life do the most irrational things.
Yes.
When there's chaos. In their life. They make poor choices.
When they leave their rational self and move into their emotional self.
Yeah, so it's like, I remember talking with this advisor. He was struggling with, he wanted to discount all of his services. The client would say, well, how much is it going to cost you? Oh, he'd discount it. And I looked at him and like, you have no idea the value you really provide. You don't,
he underestimated it.
A good there's lousy advisors that should be discounted, by the way.
Yes, but Scott, we've got Jeff from Ohio holding, but let's talk about this after we take this call, because I want to revisit what's going on in the marketplace right now, and the fact that,
in spite of what's happening in the world,
this week. Well, let's talk about it after we talk to Jeff in Ohio. Jeff, thanks for joining Allworth's Money Matters.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, guys. I got a question about Roth conversions. So my wife and I recently met with an attorney and put together a trust. And from that, we got an hour of free time with one of their tax attorneys.
Tax attorney or tax attorney?
Estate planning tax attorney. Really,
Okay.
really looking at our estate
Okay.
from a tax perspective.
Was it helpful?
That was his specialty. Yes, mostly.
Okay.
But he went down one path that I didn't agree with.
Okay.
So I felt like I needed a second opinion. And it was all related to Roth conversions. So a little background, I am almost 63, probably will retire sometime between 67 and 70. Have about $1 million in a traditional, 401k and maybe $250 in Roth IRAs, maybe another 50 in, traditional IRA. So this tax planning attorney's primary goal, he said, as he writes on a whiteboard, is zero taxes in retirement. And I'm like, wow, that's a strong statement.
Wait. What scared me most is he did it on a whiteboard. So he was standing up in front of you, writing on a whiteboard. Okay, keep going.
Correct. And it became obviously more elaborate after that. So,
okay. That's a little off-putting.
It can be, yeah. He's standing and I'm sitting, et cetera. Right. So, in general, I felt like the conversations about getting more in Roth, not having taxes, et cetera, all made sense. And of course, he was talking about the end of 2025. I think the Tax Act's going to expire and our taxes should go up. And a lot of this is predicated on our taxes being higher in the future in general, right? So, I felt like, hey, if I could afford to do a Roth conversion and I can pay for the tax impact out of cash or something I'm making very little money on, then it probably makes sense, even though I'm only 4 to 7 years from retirement.
But you're working now.
I am still working.
So let me ask.
So let me a little higher level here. So if you were at this point, instead of having $1 million in a traditional 401k, the $1 million in a Roth, you would have more after-tax money in retirement, right? And to this person's point, you could have a lot of tax, not pay any taxes during retirement. The question is, would you have the $1 million in Roth? Because the only reason you would have that is if you paid those taxes along the way. And the tax money is going to come from somewhere. It would either mean a lower standard of living for yourself and your family, right? Because you couldn't have the money to spend. Or you wouldn't have the dollar saved.
Yeah,
right? So,
correct. So let's boil this down.
A Roth is think of it no different than a prepaid tax liability.
That's all it is, right? And so what's your income right now? Are you married?
I am married.
Okay, and what's your income?
Bonuses and everything about 180 gross.
And does your spouse work outside of the home?
No.
Okay. And how much do you have in brokerage accounts and cash?
You mean non-IRA assets?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Not a lot, 40 or 50,000.
This is a very typical retirement profile here, right? Where you've got your largest nest egg is your 401k because it was your but the fact that you've got the 20% in Roth, I think it's a good position.
So let's just forget what he said. Let's just forget.
And do you have any pension?
No.
Okay, let's just forget you ever met this guy and ask the question. Right? Does it make sense to convert money into it? Before I could just tell you off the surface, it's just crazy.
I certainly wouldn't do it.
It's just it's nuts. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Unless you think we're going to a flat tax and its tax rate's going to be higher.
Or even if tax rates went higher, you've got look. You said you're going to retire in 4 years, so he wants you to convert $1 million over 4 years. Right now, you're making 180.
No. Hang on. He wants me to convert it between 67 and 70 in thirds.
Okay.
So it takes me just up to whatever the next tax bracket is.
Yeah.
In those years. So my concern though is I don't have the cash to pay the tax.
That's okay. You can use the rollover to actually do that. But I gotta tell you, I wouldn't even have had the conversation with you about what we were going to do in 4 years. I wouldn't have. I mean, why waste our breath? I would say we should consider in the day you retire, right? The following year, whenever you retire, that we should be doing some Roth conversions, right? And I would have left it at that. Would have left it at that. Wouldn't have said another word.
But isn't there, so specifically though, if I take that money out and I pull 20% out or 22% or whatever to pay the tax, when I convert it, then it's growing. I've put less money in a Roth.
It's the same.
And it's growing. So isn't there a break-even point?
No, it's the same number, right? So let's say you have $100 and you're in a 20% marginal tax rate, right?
Okay.
And I convert this $100 into a Roth and it doubles in 7 years. How much money do I have? I have $160, right? So I took this $100, I converted it to a Roth, so I used the Roth to pay the 20% tax. So now I have 80. It grows by 10% per year for 7 years. Now I have $160, right?
Okay.
That's simple math.
Correct.
Let's say that I have $100 and I don't convert it and it grows by 10% for 7 years. Now I have $200 and I have 20% tax on it. I take the money out, I pay the tax. What do I have? I have $160.
Right. So if the tax rates are the same, it doesn't make any difference.
It's a push.
But where there is opportunity, and where I would agree with this individual you're speaking with, it's because our tax rates are not flat; they are progressive. So you can have, as a married couple, you could have over $100,000. Well, after your standard deduction, which is what, 25, you could have about $120,000 of gross income and be taxed in a 12% bracket. The next dollar above that goes to 22%. So even if we revert back, let's assume that Harris is the president, and the Congress lets the tax rates expire, and we revert back to what it was prior to the Trump tax. Now the 12% bracket goes to 15, and the 22 goes to 25. That 15 is still lower than the 25. So but I don't know why he said 67 to 70. Why wouldn't he say 67 to 75? Because that's when your required minimum distribution kicks in. So in all this saying, if I was sitting in a room with you, I would have brushed over this as lightly as I possibly could.
Well, maybe I just focused on it because I wasn't able to do the math in my head, and it just didn't add up. I felt like I was getting less in the end, but your simple analysis of $100 makes sense. Honestly.
And it's 4 years out,
correct.
And then not only is it 4 years, you have 7 years to actually convert it before the required minimum distribution, and then it depends on what you're living on whether it makes sense to do that or not. So I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't spend another minute thinking about it.
No, that's fine. I mean, and I'm now doing Roth contributions because apparently my employer supports that. I didn't realize it, so sure, why not? And some things so I'm trying to reduce my tax liability.
If I were in your situation, I would take a pre-tax.
I would too,
because your taxable income is $180,000 today. Right. When you go into, or not your taxable, your gross income. When you go into retirement, you're not going to have $180,000 flowing through your tax return.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't do the Roth contribution. What's the state income tax at the state you're living in?
I'm in Ohio. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Sorry.
Well, I wouldn't. I agree with Scott. I wouldn't do the Roth contributions either.
So you think I should wait on conversion until retirement for anything, really?
100%.
Oh, conversion, but you said that you're actually making Roth you're making after-tax contributions to your 401k.
Right. Correct. So previous to all this, we've been maxing out our 401k and maxing our Roth accounts every year for X number of years.
I like that.
That's still happening. And then I just switched a couple of months ago to doing Roth contributions.
I know, switch back. Switch back.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay.
I know so.
The IRA.
Well, assuming that tax savings doesn't get spent somewhere else, because to Pat's point earlier, right? Everything looked in a vacuum. I have this Roth. I convert it. Pay the 20%. It looks at it by itself. But the reality is, but when you switched from pre-tax to Roth, your paycheck went down.
Correct.
Okay. So if you switch back and you get an extra $300 or whatever the amount is on your paycheck, and that gets spent, then at retirement you will actually have less after-tax spendable money than if you did the Roth.
Okay.
That's a lifestyle decision.
That's correct. It sounds like you're fairly disciplined at this point. Kids are probably gone and on their own.
They're self-feeders.
Correct.
And you're right now really focused on making sure you're set up well for when you're retired.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the plan today.
So switch back.
Okay.
Yeah, and by the way,
And save that extra dollar somewhere else.
you've got an incredible voice for radio. I mean, I just
I've been told that before. I did some.
He does. You're
volunteering
right. Actually, he does.
for the Association for the Blind in the past and read books.
wait. Oh, you did.
I did.
I'm
years
afraid.
ago.
So the only place you could make it in media was with blind people.
Correct. That's for restating the obvious.
Thanks for calling, Jeff.
All right,
Appreciate
appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks.
Yeah, and I've
What's that?
only career he can have with us. People who couldn't see his face.
That's not nice.
It wasn't nice, but it was funny.
It's not nice at all. I'm sure he's a marvelously good-looking man.
I'm sure.
They're good-looking people. So, Scott, before we went on that, there's two things I wanted to talk about today. One is the importance of actually having a will or a trust, even if you're single. And the second thing is, what is going on? This was so we're recording this on Thursday. What day is it? The 3rd of October at 9 in the morning Pacific time, right? And the reason I'm
By the
stating
way,
that,
it's a good morning. I don't know if you noticed in the kitchen, we came in, our studios and our offices here, and apparently yesterday was cereal day. So there's like 20 different kinds of junk cereal in the kitchen. I had Cocoa Pebbles this morning before they came in the studio. It made me quite happy.
I didn't see this. What do we have, a bunch of 8-year-olds working here? It
was hilarious.
It's cereal day.
Someone said there's nothing. I said I don't think any cereal is healthy, particularly. But but I enjoyed the marketing on them. I looked at the boxes: gluten free, whole grain.
And
it's all
it
pretty
was.
bad for
And
me.
what was it? Chocolate? What were they?
I had there was like 20 different ones. Every kind you can imagine.
But you had the name
Cocoa
brand.
Pebbles, yeah.
Cocoa Pebbles.
Yeah.
We were growing up.
That was my favorite as a kid. Cocoa Pebbles.
We didn't have the Cocoa Pebbles. We had like chocolate look-alike Cocoa Pebbles.
My parents never bought it for me. Every once in a while, I'd walk to what was the name of that supermarket? I'd walk to the supermarket,
Vaughn's?
buy my own. No, it was a Hughes.
And you would
Hughes.
You would walk to the store and buy cereal.
Yeah, like in
Chocolate.
junior high. It was pretty close, and I had a friend say, "Let's go get some Cocoa Pebbles." Not Fruity Pebbles. You're way off.
That's too funny. I guess there's worse things you could be doing as a teenager.
I'm just saying it. So start out as good morning. And I completely interrupted where we're going, and it's totally irrelevant to our conversation.
It is a good day. I'm going to swing by the break
It's
room.
good. I only had half a bowl, but I'm tempted to have another one. It's kind of like when there's donuts. I have like a couple bites and like a couple bites. The next thing you know, I've eaten 2 donuts.
Okay, so this is a financial talk show, so let's try to stick to the topic. 9:20.
Here's what you would. Here's what we. Here's what you would think. Here's what you would think that we would start the show off. Man, it's been a horrible week in the markets. The Dow is off 15% in a matter of weeks, in a matter of days.
Because what do we have going on, right? This thing in the Middle East. I remember when last year when it happened, I said and the markets didn't react at all.
Up dramatically higher than a year ago.
Yeah, the markets, and I said, this thing it's a tinder keg. I mean, the retaliation, and it's full on war. With the only thing that's missing is a declaration of war. They haven't come out and declared war, but it's war it's war. You've got a political campaign that's in complete. It's nuts.
When the Pope says it's the lesser of 2 evils, that's what he said. Yeah, I think that's how most people view it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then with Helene, the tornado. What happened to the southeast?
Hurricane, yeah.
The hurricane, and
Particularly North Carolina.
crazy. And the markets, nothing, 0. Like another week.
And this is not abnormal. So when the markets are going up or going down, if you were trying to find some rationale behind it, you can hear all kinds of opinions. You can flip on the TV and someone's going, wow, it's all noise, right? Because the markets over a short period of time are going to move in directions that you can never predict, ever.
That have maybe something to do with the external environment in which we operate, maybe none at all. But back to what we started the show with, which is this emotional, how people act irrationally. When you act irrational, you actually try to look for things in your environment to justify
Your decisions.
your decisions. It's human nature,
Of
right?
course.
It's never me, it's always them. It's the right time because it's that's how we are as humans. It's it's a flaw. And to be a good investor, you have to overlook that. You have to move away from that because I got to tell you, when we walked in the studio this morning, I said to Scott, is this market crazy? And not that it was going up or down. And you looked at me and you said, yeah, that makes like you would think that there'd be all kinds of.
I'm not surprised.
Oh, no, I'm not.
It's just a reminder. It was a good reminder to me. And it's very different. If you think back to Operation Desert Storm, the early 90s, the first war with Iraq, but led into a recession after that. There was dramatic slowdown in the economy and the stock market. It was huge implications of it. And
yeah, go figure.
I mean, there's no ground war at this.
There's ground war.
I guess there is, which depending on how you want to describe it. Yeah.
Right.
It's
we haven't been sucked in completely. We're in.
I mean, it feels like it's a global tinderbox right now, right? Lots of different areas
Yes.
of conflict and right on the verge of conflict.
Yes.
And we're not going to get into all the details, and yet the economy is doing well. Equity prices continue to go up.
Yes. Right. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. And by the way,
But over the short term,
who knows?
yes.
They're going to go in any direction we want.
Yeah.
We could have a roaring economy the next 24 months, and the stock market could be lower 24 months from now. We could have a stagnant economy. We can go into recession in the next 24 months, and the stock market could be dramatically higher than it is today. Over a long period of time,
What drives the stock market?
the overall earnings of these companies, a growing economy is really important
Over the long term.
over the long term. Over the short term,
No one knows.
it's kind of anyone's guess, And it's a good reminder. And I was talking to an individual the other day, and this person had a couple $1 million that would sit on the sidelines. They wanted to get invested. They were asking me about it. Scott, what do you think? Well, it doesn't seem like it's a good time to invest right now because things are high. And I said, haven't you always felt that way? I mean, when is a good time to invest? Because when things are cheap, you're not going to.
Well, these asset prices aren't extraordinary relative to the earnings.
And if you've got cash that you're like, I know I need to put this to work. These are dollars I'm not going to spend for 10 years from now. It's been sitting on the sidelines. Now interest rates are going down. Like, I know I need to get it to work. You can always do it over kind of a dollar cost average approach.
In 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is,
6
right?
months or whatever you want to do. Just to put
a
bits
plan in
a
place.
A plan and follow the plan.
That's right.
To get yourself invested.
That's right. That's right.
But and I always liked one of the benefits of being in this industry a long time.
But Scott, these prices aren't abnormally on a price to earnings basis.
Not in this generation.
Yes.
I mean, they're higher than they were at other periods of time. But if you go back the last 30 years, they're pretty much in line. And had you followed, by the way, Pat, had the last decade, you followed the whole CAPE. What's that stand for again? You don't read about that so much anymore because it has been so inaccurate.
Something cumulative
case.
Price earnings is
whatever it is. Please, if you're thinking these guys are a bunch of idiots, I don't even know what case.
You might be right.
Yeah, whatever. But that was using a different measure of price to earnings, smoothed out the earnings or whatnot. And had you followed that and said, "Oh, it's too expensive to invest," you would have been out of the markets the last decade. which has been phenomenal growth.
It was cyclically adjusted price to earnings.
Cyclically adjusted price to earnings. Thank you. That's what. I think that's what it is.
Okay. Anyway, let's go to the calls.
Yeah. Let's talk with Kim. Kim, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hey, hi guys. Thanks for taking my call
Glad
today.
you called.
Yeah, thanks. I found you guys from Patrick with RAA, and I'm now an Allworth client through
All right.
Allison in the Phoenix office. So thank you so much for all of that. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And just a disclaimer for the rest, although Kim's a client, she may be happy with it, but not all of our clients may be happy with us.
Disclaimer out, right? Kim's
thrilled.
experience may not be
Indicative of all of our clients.
Yes. Okay.
Gotcha,
So thanks for calling. We got that out of the way.
My question is not for myself, but it's for my mother. She is 76, and she's been widowed about a year and a half. She has $100,000 in cash, and she has $1 million home that's paid off. She does get my dad's military pension and Social Security of $5,000 a month. But she went last year after he died, and she bought a $200,000 indexed annuity
At the bank?
at the bank. Yes.
This is why I hate these products.
This is so bad. This is so bad. And I haven't seen this in a number of years with the banks.
Here's what I don't like. The structure of these products, they pay, maybe there's a time for them. They pay a high commission. Okay?
Yes.
So this person at the bank sees your mom, recently widowed. She can't even make clear decisions because the person she's been married to for 50 years is no longer in her life. And they sell her, they say all the great benefits of this product. And my guess is the money's tied up for 10 years?
No. So this is the big reveal here. So I actually went to the bank last week with her to talk about it. They took her $200,000 in July. They said she can actually withdraw it
10%.
all
Okay.
now, but no surrender fee. It says that in the policy, but he told me she could take $204,000. They gave her $12,000 for the gain for the year, $12,000. And then said, well, you can withdraw it all right now, and you can take out $204,000.
So there is a surrender
That's the
charge.
surrender. The difference between the two,
difference
12.
between the gain and the redemption
Gotcha.
value, or what they call the surrender value.
Which is probably the amount of the
Absolutely.
commission that this guy made, or this girl made.
Correct.
That's right. So fortunately, it
correct.
wasn't a 10-year surrender charge. It sounds like a 4-year surrender charge.
Well, according to the contract, it's a 7-year.
Okay, that sounds
But-
about normal.
But whatever. My question is, that I think that she should just take the hit
Yes.
and
Yes.
take the money
Yes.
and run.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
It just is so frustrating because,
I know.
like, our industry, what the heck is a financial advisor, right? There's so many different flavors, and then they got the banks that still have this damn structure where they pay commissions on selling products. So the person who recommended this to your mom knew that they could be making probably 4% commission, 5% commission if they put your mom into this product. But if they recommended that she keep it in a bank CD, they would make nothing. Tremendous conflict of interest.
And
Well,
the-
but we did just learn. I mean, shoot, I'm 56. I did just switch to Allworth because I didn't understand that there was a
And
fiduciary.
look, there are other good advisory firms out there. It's not just all.
Yes.
There's just still areas of this industry that are
and she loses the tax efficiency of.
tax efficiency.
She loses by the use of an annuity. She loses loses the tax efficiency of an ETF.
Well,
In
lots
terms
of they're tax deferred, but they tax as
Yeah.
ordinary income. The worst tax.
So then the question is, you surrender the product. Just go back to your advisor at Allworth and ask how to allocate.
I'm going to. I see her next week.
By the way, so
But-
typically when somebody loses a spouse, our advice is do as little as possible for at least 12 months.
Yes.
Don't move. Don't do any new investments.
Don't get remarried.
Do as little, have as little changes as possible.
Yes.
Because one,
and
you're
that's
not
what she
that
did
clear
with
on your
everything
future, and
else.
two, you're not making those clear decisions.
Yes. She just really trusted the wealth manager
I know.
at her bank.
It's
Yeah,
not a
she's
wealth
really
manager,
nice.
but I actually
That's
question.
what they call themselves.
I
know.
understand. How long ago did she buy this?
July of last year.
I don't know if I'd go back to the bank or not and say,
Well, she's getting all of her principal back.
you don't think it's worth
She's getting her principal back.
I would
Yes.
make the argument that you should bring me up to the same money I would have had in a bank CD. That's the argument I would make.
Oh, interesting.
If it was my mom, I would call the bank and say, "Look, this is absolutely inappropriate what you did." She had it at a
So it's
bank
about
CD.
a $6-8 grand difference.
That's right. And I would say this was absolutely inappropriate. She was in this investment that had no surrender charge, and you took this, and we wanted it to be liquid, and you took advantage of my widowed mom
Hmm.
and put them in this product. You make me whole.
Well, what her point was that she wanted that the income distribution, the guaranteed income, and that she wanted her money because she's lost a lot of money. She's just purchased individual
No,
stocks
I understand.
and lost it.
I get
But
that.
that's how it was sold to her, was that you'll have it for your lifetime.
Yeah.
Even if you take out all your money, we'll still give you an income.
Oh, whether you annuitize it, but she didn't annuitize it. She never annuitized it. Wasn't
The argument,
what she was sold isn't what she bought. Right? I hear what you're saying. They talk about an annuities and the idea that you could turn this in, but that may or may not have been the right thing for her, which is if that was the
Right.
case, then you'd buy a life annuity. My argument, right? Let's say she was my Aunt Kim.
Yes.
I go to the bank with Aunt Kim and I say, let me talk to the manager. Look, she was widowed. She had been widowed for a few months, runs into the bank. You push them over to the salesperson who you call a wealth manager and then sell a product that she has never, ever owned
with a
before.
7-year surrender charge.
When, in fact, had we
Right.
just left it at the bank CD, I would have earned 4.5%, 5%. And this
Right.
is what the outcome would have been. Give
Yeah.
me what she had originally.
Right.
You own this. This was inappropriate. You are supposed to be acting in my best interest, right? Use
Yeah.
that term,
Yeah.
in my best interest. They don't act
Right,
as a
'cause
fiduciary because it was
Suitable.
in my best interest.
He said he was a fiduciary, and he said he and his staff are certified financial planners.
Yes, but they're
But-
part-time fiduciaries. They weren't a fiduciary on the use of this product.
Oh,
And by
okay.
the way, if you're a certified financial planner, and I think some of the rules change, in order to state you're a certified financial planner, is education that serves, but you also agree to be a fiduciary at all times.
So,
Yes.
so here's what, Kim, I'm glad you called because this is hopefully enlightening for the
And there may be times when these are appropriate, not for.
especially not. So here's what happens in our industry. You can be a fiduciary and you can be involved in a broker dealer and receive commissions.
Well,
at
no,
the
this
same
isn't
time.
even a brokerage product. This is
An
an
insurance product.
It's not even a security. The insurance regulators somehow managed. The insurance lobby was strong enough so that all somebody needs is an insurance license to sell these products, and they can sell the product as, it's tied to the stock market. If stock market goes up, you win. The stock market goes down, you still win.
So what happens is you can be a part-time fiduciary. And a part-time fiduciary says you hold yourself out as someone that acts as a fiduciary until you get in front of that client, in which case you put a new hat on and you sell them commission-based products. And look, in the Sacramento market, which Scott and I have been in as an investment advisor with Hanson McLean / Allworth, I've been here for 30 years, been in the industry for 35. We have competitors that hold themselves out as fiduciaries, but the minute someone goes into their office, they get sold an indexed annuity. We see it every day because we see the outcome, right?
Okay.
I would make the argument, go back to your advisor at Allworth and say, what would it have earned if she had just left it where it was? Then I would actually do the math, go back to the
That's
bank
what I think.
and say, you give me this.
Yeah,
You give me this.
Okay.
And if the bank says no, you say, not a worry. I'm just going to turn this over to the Department of Insurance.
I'm going to file a complaint with
Exactly.
the Department of Insurance.
And they will say,
We could either write Kim's mom a check for $6,000, or we can have one more thing
to fight with the
against us.
Department of Insurance. They will
Yes.
fold like a house of cards.
Oh, yes. And I know how to get my senators and representatives involved as well. I've had to do that before. So
You'll get the money then.
You'll get the money. Gosh.
Yeah.
Gosh. God bless you. That is music to my ears.
Yeah, you'll get the money.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
yeah.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
go back to your advisor at Allworth and ask him what the value would have been had it stayed
in a CD.
in whatever,
Right.
the appropriate investment.
She's 6 months
Okay.
after being widowed.
Scott, you knew exactly what
April
happened.
to July. April to
Oh,
July,
May,
yeah.
June,
Yep.
Yeah, you knew exactly what happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Was
thank
it
you.
from, was the
That's
was the
what
money
I-
from a life insurance proceed, or was it in a CD beforehand?
I don't actually know where the money came
Well,
from.
it didn't come
I
from a
don't,
CD.
They just
I mean, it didn't come from
put
an
it
annuity. I
in the
guarantee you that.
bank. Right. No, they had never done that before. I think they just literally had it sitting. Like right now, she's got $100,000 in a money market fund doing nothing, not even a high yield savings.
Well, then you have FDIC insurance. In fact, Allworth has what is a brokered CD product, if you want, where you actually just give it to your Allworth advisor, and then they direct it into a CD product, which actually then gets the FDIC. And we get paid a
Yeah.
little bit on it.
I don't know if we do it.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know.
Well, we have it. I think what she wants to do is actually grow this money. When I started explaining to her about ETFs and safe ways to be able to invest, she thought it was an all or nothing. And so I think we could probably put this,
Yes.
we would just want to grow this money for
It sounds like with what
generations.
you've said thus far, there's $300,000. Some should probably be very
Yeah.
liquid, very secure. Some a little more modern. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. Allison can help us with
and
that. I
a good
appreciate it.
advisor would have said to your mother, "Look, we're gonna take the simplest road right now. Where we can make the least amount of decisions. Let's just keep this money safe and secure. And as time goes on, let's do a little more planning. And maybe at some point in time in the future, we'll find somewhere outside of just a bank account. But that would have been the appropriate advice. That I think 95% of people who call themselves wealth managers would have agreed with. 99% of people who call themselves wealth managers would agree with that statement.
Sure.
Okay.
Well,
Christy,
thank you for your
thanks.
advice.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Kim.
You guys are great.
All right,
Oh,
thanks.
thank
Kim.
you.
I got to tell you, it's times like this. It makes me motivated to continue working hard in this industry, just because.
It's absolutely inappropriate. Absolutely. You know exactly what happened. The lady at the bank says, "Oh, Mrs., you have all this money. You should really talk to the Bill over there." And they go over to Bill or Diane,
and
or
they
whoever.
might get some sort of bonus based on how many referrals they give to Bill
They may,
or Steve or whatever
or Mary or whatever. They look. I've been at the same credit union for 40 years. 40 years. Try never to go into the branch. Sometimes have to. Quarter of the time, they say to me, "Mr. McLean, have you ever considered sitting down with one of our wealth managers?" And I say to myself, I'd rather walk over hot coals. But externally, I say, "No, thank you. I think I've got this covered." And then they'll say, "Well, do you know you have a high account balance here?" And I say, "I'm aware. There's reason, there's direction for that at this point in time."
We're talking now with Steve. Steve, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hello, fellas. Good morning.
Hi, Steve.
So my program is I'm getting ready to retire at 57 and getting married for the first time as well. And
Wow.
I'm moving out of California.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
rush into
wow.
anything, Steve.
You got to see how you mature.
Yeah.
Exactly. When I grow up, I don't want to rush into it.
I have a friend that got married for the first time at the age of 60, though.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
You know him too.
That's
I've got no
correct.
regret.
I do have a friend. I think they've been living together for a decade or something. But anyway.
Okay, so 57, getting married, retiring all at the same time.
Yes, that is correct. Retiring. Actually, I'm resigning. I'm going to try to work for a couple years after I move out of California. My situation is I've accrued about $750,000 in savings during my work years.
And is that in a
from
401k or an IRA when you say savings?
It's about half of it is in a 457 plan with my county employment, and then the other half is funded from a house sale from about 5 years ago.
It's in cash?
It's in a S&P index fund currently.
Okay.
And then I've got some money in a Roth. I've got an HSA funds also. My pension's going to be about $3,000 a month. But I have no hard assets, I guess. I don't have a house. I don't have any of that.
Right.
My soon-to-be wife has got a house that's just about paid off, so we won't have any expenses there. And I'm completely debt-free.
And where
I guess
the house that your new wife, the missus, what's the value of that and where's it located?
It is in Nebraska.
And are you moving into that house?
I will be.
Okay. Keep going.
Okay. So she has 4 adult children, and she is also debt-free as well as independently wealthy. She's got a couple businesses that she runs. Very frugal. We're both very frugal with our money. I guess my question is my $750,000 and along with my pension going to give me a peace of mind that I can get by?
How much did you earn at your job?
About $85,000 a year.
And that $85,000. So let's and how much were you using of that to put into the 457?
About 25%.
Oh. And will you qualify for Social Security?
I will.
Okay, and
at 62, that's about $1,800 a month.
So what are you hoping the outcome of this call would have been? Like to us to tell you it's okay, or that you need to continue to work, or
I mean, you're marrying a woman who's got a home that's paid off. You just said she's independently wealthy.
Sounds like you're
Right.
pretty smart.
Well.
It's just as easy to fall in love with a rich one as a poor one.
So
My grandmother used to tell me that.
But my guess is you're looking at this for a couple things. One is, I mean, maybe for your own pride, right? Like you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
She's not your,
Mm-hmm.
And the second is probably like, what happens if things don't work out? I would hate to be down 10 years down the road and suddenly I'm on my own and I don't have the financial wherewithal to remain retired.
Sure.
So once you're 62, you're at about almost $5,000 a month between the pension and Social Security, right?
Correct.
Which is what you're living on now.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
So you're my brother. I'd say, look, why don't we let's generate $1,800 a month from your other accounts to bridge you to Social Security. Once Social Security kicks in, let's let your other accounts just continue to grow. That gets you almost $5,000 a month of income.
And you're moving from California to Nebraska.
Correct.
So that the cost of living is, I'm guessing,
You'll need a little more antifreeze for the car and the window wash fluid or window fluid.
my guess, the cost of living is 15 to 20% less expensive, and you have a house to live in.
It's about 17% actually, from what
All
I've
right.
researched.
Okay.
Numbers.
That was a guess. So the thing that I would ask the new wife is in this house you're going to be moving into, is that you do some trust work that gives you a life estate at the house.
Mm-hmm.
Should she die, you can stay there for either a period of years or until your death. Then it reverts to her kids.
Then it reverts to the kids.
Yeah, I think that I don't want to stay in a place that her kids actually have more right to than I would.
Well,
I feel like it's not.
Okay, well that's your call. But you're fine financially, and I agree with Scott. Have you started? I don't even know if I'd go $1,800 a month. I'd probably do $1,500 to start and see how it goes, so that you now have a check of $4,500 a month coming in every month. until Social Security kicks in at age 62 or 65.
That means you can help with the utilities, and you can have money to do whatever you want to do, and not.
And as you said, you plan on actually probably re-entering the workforce. You could turn that flow of income off at any time.
So with that income from that new job for a couple of years, would that be just live off that money?
Yes, if you're going to have a new job, then
yes. Then don't take any income out of the IRS. But you're fine financially. You're fine.
Financially, be fine.
Yeah. If you had to go back there and buy a house, you could probably still make it work, but it wouldn't be as comfortable. You're absolutely fine. You're more than fine.
Okay. Oh, well, that gives me peace of mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about from the financial side.
Nights.
Yeah.
Don't worry about sleepless nights.
Oh, you shouldn't be having sleepless nights. Imagine, other than getting married for the first time at 57.
Or if she snores loudly.
I mean,
I
have no idea. I've been married for 38 years. I have no idea what it's like.
Steve, I wouldn't worry about the finances at all.
Finances, you're fine. You're more than fine. You're actually,
and the longer you can let your $750 grow, the better, frankly. So if you've got the $3,000 a month pension, you're still doing some work. You got plenty of assets to feel like you're contributing to the family income, help with utilities, that sort of thing, and have a sense of pride there. So I think
you're fine.
Yeah, wish you well.
So Scott, I started the show by wanting to talk about the need for a will or a trust, even if you're single. And I came across this article. Where was this? I think it was Wall Street Journal.
Even if you're single. So
if you're single. Not having children is becoming more common. We know that, right? 20% of U.S. adults age 50 and older don't have children. And this article was talking about people receiving inheritances from people they don't know. Because
that sounds like my dream.
Right? Right. They're receiving inheritances from people they don't know because the people died without any direction as to where the money was going to go. Even though they had no children, they just never bothered to put a will or a trust in place. Not even a simple one.
And no siblings. Because it all falls through state law, whatever state you live in, whatever the law is.
That goes through, okay, so children, spouse first, children second, siblings third, parent. It goes through this, whatever state has its own little waterfall. And so if you go down on that list, you might be a cousin and might be the only living relative. In fact, I have a friend who makes his living finding lost relative sheeted assets. They're called sheeted assets. They're turned over to the state. People never know it. He actually finds the relatives, says to them, I'll tell you where there's money in your name. There's $100,000 here. You got to give me 25% of it. And then he directs them over there. Right? That's what he does for a living.
Hey, guess what?
Yes.
I have some found assets.
So,
you just have to promise to give me some, and I'll tell you.
It's a strange industry. So the reason this is important is...
It does seem strange because at one point you're actually helping people, but the other part feels like, hey, I found your wallet. I'll give it to you if you give me $100.
Well,
does it feel a bit that way?
Yeah, but you can't make a living by hoping to find people's lost wallets. It's his business.
I'm just saying, I don't know if I would like to, that would be my business.
It's his business. But what happens is, I'll use a real life example. I had I have some clients, and they didn't have a will or trust and no children. And one of them had a brother. And I said, so you can do a will and a trust? And they said, yeah, we're going to get to it. We'll do it at some point. I'm in a sizable estate. And I said, well, your brother's really going to enjoy this money. And he said, I don't want my brother to have it. And I said, well, you're sure acting like you want him to have it. He said, why would he get the money? I said, because you're allowing the state to actually decide who gets the money. You don't have any children. You don't have any parents. Your wife doesn't have any siblings. They're going to find him. It goes to him. He said, well, I don't get along with my brother. I don't want him to have the money. He said, well, then it's your choice. Do a trust. You decide, or a will, whatever the state you're
making
in.
This I'm thinking about my oldest daughter who bought a house in the last year. I don't think she does not have a will or trust. I'm thinking, should something happen to her? She lives in Colorado. I'm not sure of the Colorado laws. Probably go to her siblings, of which 2 are minors.
Oh.
Would not be healthy for my 17-year-old to know that she had a pot of cash.
And maybe it goes, but whatever your state you're in, you at a minimum go on. I recommend you using a licensed attorney, right? An attorney, an estate planning attorney. But in absence of that, you can go online, which I'm sure you're going to tell Jessica to do. Go online, pay this $50 or $100. I've told her. Pay this $100. It may not be perfect, but at least it gives some direction. The best thing to do is go hire an attorney and have it done correctly. The second best thing is to go online and do it.
I think we'll have a little more clarity come election. I was going to say the day after the election, but it
might be weeks.
Days or weeks. I think we'll have a little more clarity on what might happen with the state planning laws. But if you haven't had your will or trust updated in a few years,
do it.
Yeah, I mean it's, and like we see
it all the time.
We see what happens with the difference between good planning and poor planning. So.
And especially if you have children, it's a second marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Or even if it's not a second marriage, but you have children outside, it's really important.
Well, hey, it's been great being with you. We appreciate that somebody listens to the program. So anyway, we drop this every Saturday morning, and hope to see you next week. This has been Scott Hansen, Pat McLean of Allworth Money Management.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.